And so the next portion of the presentation is going to be focused on something called vocal hygiene. And so vocal hygiene are daily habits you can be taking to maintain and take care of your voice. And so you can protect your vocal folds by regularly using these strategies that I'm going to talk about in a moment. All right, first and starting off strong is hydration. And we say water is excellent, but steam is better. And so water intake, we recommend about 60 ounces of water per day to hydrate. And a common phrase I heard is "be pale, not clear." And so we want you to try and drink water about 2 to 3 hours before needing to voice extensively for singers if there's an important performance coming up, if you have to give a speech, or just if you're about to go into a work meeting or something that you're really going to need your voice for quite some time. Really try and get that water intake up and increased for 2 to 3 hours. That way it takes effect and you can notice a difference for your voice. However, water does not directly touch the vocal folds. So there's a common phrase, if water goes, quote, down the wrong pipe, and you'll feel that uncomfortable sensation of water in your throat. And that's because it quite literally is going down the wrong pipe. And so water should not directly touch the vocal folds when you're swallowing. However, steam, because when you are drinking water, there's a mechanism that comes over and goes over the vocal folds. And so when you're steaming, and that's when you swallow. When you're steaming, the vocal folds remain open. And so steam can directly come through and hydrate the airway and hydrating the entire mechanism. So steam is also an excellent course of action for hydration, but that is not to say that water is not excellent as well. And I believe that both of them should be used in combination. My other go-to recommendation is taking vocal naps. Vocal naps, I like this term because sometimes voice rest can sound rather intimidating and overwhelming. However, vocal naps are as they sound like. They're just taking a quick nap or break to give your voice some time to rest and recover. So we say for every 45 minutes of voicing, vocal rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. And during that time period, you can use it if you're working and you use your voice maybe for a lot of meetings. It's a great time to say, I'm just going to answer emails. And you can even set a timer just to make sure that 10 to 15 minutes is really happening. And sometimes it's easy to say, oh, I'm not voicing, but we really say during that time, even throat clearing counts as voicing, whispering, coughing can as well, and so with laughing. And so we say you can use a text-to-speech app, text or email people to communicate, but really just try and shut off that voice. Another great analogy I love to use, it goes back to running, is that when you think about running a marathon, you're going to plan out your long runs. Sometimes people do them on the weekends. So let's say during the weekdays, you do your shorter runs, and then the weekends, you have your long runs coming up. Maybe if you're doing your long run on a Saturday, that Friday, you're probably going to take it rather easy. Maybe you'll run a mile or two, or maybe you take that as a rest day. So it's really important that with your voice, you look at it the same way. Your voice is a really powerful mechanism, and it has a great amount of responsibility on our life for voicing. And so by taking these vocal rests, let's say you have a really important, maybe you're going to a concert and you really just want to be able to sing along with that artist, or maybe you have a really important performance, or you're recording a podcast, or you have a speech, and you know that big marathon event's on that Saturday, for example. You really want to take that Friday and then that Sunday after to rest and recover. And these vocal naps can be a really great way of doing that, but also budgeting your voice that you have that stability and power for when you need it most. And so tip number 3 is efficient voicing. And so that would you really want to avoid whispering. A common misconception is that whispering is a healthier way to voice, because sometimes if you're experiencing vocal loss, whisper can come out feels like it comes out a little easier. However, whispering leads to a harsher vocal quality, and that can also further any kind of strain you're experiencing and possibly damage your vocal folds. So you really want to avoid whispering. And then, of course, avoiding yelling. As I said earlier, that's creating more collision force on the vocal folds, and it's a really unsustainable way of speaking. And so what we do recommend is something known as confidential voicing, which is using a voice as it sounds that you would use speaking in confidence. So not something that's over the top loud, but just loud enough that your communication partner can hear you at a very confidential level, which keeps it nice and healthy. Tip number 4, I am a huge advocate for mental health and wellness. One of my favorite quotes that was given to me by one of my favorite professors in graduate school was that the voice is the window to the soul. And when I first heard it, I started to laugh because I think many of us heard that the eye is the window to the soul. However, over my work, I've really found that her quote couldn't be more true. The voice has the capacity to do so much for our lives if we use it as our primary mode of communication. It can help us to inspire, to just communicate basic wants and needs, to educate, but it's also very core in identity. So if you are stressed, that emotional impact can result in the voice and you can hear it. Some people hold their emotions in their throat. When people cry often, you can hear it in their voice. And that lump of the throat, I'm really sad feeling. And so in addition to that, I really do think it's important if you are experiencing dysphonia, it can have a significant psychological impact. And so really going to psychological counseling can be great for potential social emotional impacts that can occur due to living with dysphonia. And so tip number 5 is what I was talking about earlier, and that is that breath management. And so it's really important to maintain proper posture and breath to really help improve vocal strength. And so good posture can not only help breath support, but it also can reduce some of the strain on your voice. And so right now, as we're speaking, you can even practice standing and sitting up straight with nice and relaxed shoulders. And even in this posture, you even can potentially even feel maybe a little decrease in stress, which can help the voice as well. And so we say breathing from your diaphragm rather than a shallow chest breathing can improve the control and quality of your voice. And so this control and this vocal quality we're speaking of, this includes steadier airflow, pitch control can improve, vocal stamina, and your vocal power and projections, that ability when you do need to get louder, that it occurs in a healthier manner. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to go into is something called diaphragmatic breathing, or I like to refer to it as belly breathing. And so when you exercise breath management by breathing deeply into your stomach rather than shallowly from your chest, which is something known as runner's breath. So if you think of runners, a lot of times they need that quick energy to kind of keep them going. Even though some runners like to talk as they run, for the most part, all that breath coming in is really getting used as power to keep them running. And they don't want this strong diaphragmatic breathing as it takes more energy to create that breath. However, when you're voicing, you want that power from your stomach as it's going to help that power that, as I was talking about earlier, power that source with a little more strength. And as you breathe in, your stomach should rise. So I want you to put your hand in your stomach right now and breathe in, and you should feel your stomach expand. And as you breathe out, your stomach should fall. And so it kind of is a counterintuitive as you're breathing in, your stomach's going out. And when you're breathing out, your stomach's going in. And so as you're breathing, the other thing I was always told, I was a singer growing up, is that your belly, your back, and your ribs should be moving outward on the exhale. So you can kind of put your hand on your back. And then sometimes I put my hand right by my stomach, right under my ribs, so I can really feel it all. You can practice that right now. Something I like to use is breathing in for 4. So we'll do it right now. Breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to breathe out. You can breathe out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you do that, you really can hopefully feel that expand and contract of your diaphragm or belly.